Hi, I'm Greg Dell here with attorney Alex Palomara, and we're going to talk about Metlife and reviewing Metlife, whether they're a good company, a bad company, what our experience is in working with them. And Alex, as you know, on our website, especially where this video is appearing, we have lots of reviews from people who are policyholders of Metlife and have had experiences, whether good or bad. And we highly encourage people to share their experiences because people really learn from that and say, am I alone in the way Metlife's treating me, or are other people having this? The other advantage of people leaving reviews is that the whole world learns. All the Metlife policyholders, we learn about experiences that we may not already know, and everyone gets to share those. But for now, when someone calls you and they go, hey, Alex, I'm calling you about a Metlife claim, whether they're looking to apply or they're on claim or they've been denied, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, when someone calls and brings up, I've been denied by Metlife, I get the frustration in their voice already, because it could be a frustrating experience dealing with Metlife. You know, Metlife has good claims handlers over there. I've dealt with many good people over there. I've filed many appeals, been successful on appeals, getting people back on claim. And when they go back to the claims analyst, there's good claims analysts over there. There's also other ones that I think that are either overwhelmed, overworked, or they're just not trained properly, and getting them to even call you back sometimes can be a frustrating experience. And then when you ultimately receive a denial letter, you're like, why am I receiving this denial letter? What is going on? Like, everything's been provided. So I get when people call and they're frustrated dealing with Metlife. So the first thing I think to myself is I understand what these people are going through. I do get it. And but I also know that when someone's been denied, that we have a good chance of getting them back on claim, because oftentimes the Metlife file reviewers overlook a lot of information. So it leaves the door open for us for getting our clients, our eventual clients, back on claim. But I understand their frustration. Are they a good company, bad company? They're run of the mill. They're like every other insurance company.
It's interesting how you say that, because if you were to ask me that question, when I think Metlife, I think mass production.
Yeah.
I think, look, I love Ford, I love GM, but I think mass production. It's not a boutique company. It's not a small company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company that long-term, short-term disability is a small part of what they do compared to life insurance and all the other products that they sell. But I think mass production, high volume, their claim reps have a lot of cases, often overworked, not a lot of attention to detail in terms of what they do, a lot of forms. When we see denial letters, it's the same language, different person, a lot of the same doctors that they go to, whether it's internal doctors or outside doctors. And I think that Metlife struggles to get quality people to work for them to review these claims, even though they're nice people and there are some experienced ones, but they have so much volume that it's hard for them to get people, train them appropriately to review these claims. And as a result of that, I think that's the basis of a lot of these complaints. Is they say, I sent them the information. They said they didn't get it. They're asking me again to send them the same thing that I already sent them. Why are they asking me every 2 months for the same thing? Why don't they call my doctor to get this information? Why did they tell me one thing and then I call back again and they're like, I don't remember talking to you about that. And that, it all comes down to every company. It's about how are they trained? How are they going to manage the claim? And that manifests itself in what is the customer service, which is one of the things we use in our ratings on our website. How's their customer service? Well, not very high for them in particular. With Metlife, though, in particular, a lot of the frustrations come from the policies that they're selling, the language of the policies. Where do you see the source of most of the complaints are based upon policy language?
Well, Metlife has been able to be sophisticated in writing their policies. They've been doing it for, 50, 60 years, writing these disability insurance policies, maybe longer for all I know.
Yeah.
So they've learned from losing lawsuits, how to formulate their policies to be more in their favor. And they have this language in the policy that really limits certain claims. Obviously, most disability insurance claims limit mental health claims to 2 years. That's the average thing, is 2 years. It will not pay beyond 24 months. Metlife policies has the 2-year limitation for mental health claims. They also have limiting language
on the group side.
On the group side, not individual policy, but on the group side.
Employer provided.
They also have limiting language for other disabling conditions like neuromusculoskeletal issues, anything to do with, they have objective evidence standards where they, if your disabling condition is pain, you have to be able to objectively prove your condition. If you just have, say, I have pain or headaches, they're going to deny your claim because there's language in the policies. If they have sophisticated language, they give them more outs to deny your claim in the future. So you have to read that language and figure out, what do I have to prove to get beyond this limiting language to show to them that I am still disabled and they still have to pay me benefits. So it's getting the proper testing done. So you have objective evidence to prove that you have these symptoms, or that you have these conditions that cause your symptoms. You can objectively prove why you're disabled from your disabling conditions and why you have these symptoms. If not, they're gonna, if there's a will in their way, and there's definitely a will at MetLife, they're going to deny your claim and use that policy language.
How about their definition of disability and changes in the definition of disability?
Like most group disability insurance policies, after a certain period, the definition of disability changes. So they might approve your claim initially, but that doesn't mean you're going to be on claim to age 65 or 67. Typically, under most disability insurance policies, what it means to be disabled changes after 2 years of benefits. It becomes more difficult. So now, not only do you have to prove that you're disabled from your own occupation, at the 2-year mark, you have to prove that you're disabled from any gainful occupation. Now, any gainful occupation takes into account, supposedly, your training, education, and experience. And MetLife will do a vocational study, to see whether there's occupations that you can do. But what it really comes down to at the change definition of disability is whether you can do a sedentary job, and that's really what they're looking at. So if your prior job as a nurse or a doctor, you're on your feet all day, they don't care anymore. If you can do a sit-down job, you're no longer disabled. That's pretty much what any gainful occupation typically takes into account. It's also typically 60%, sometimes 80% of your prior monthly earnings, but they're going to dumb down those requirements and say, hey, you can do this job. I mean, they always say my clients can be, a person that relaxes the alarm. Not an alarm technician, but a person that responds to alarms or responds to a gate.
An operator.
And it's like,
service.
And my client has no experience doing it. They just find any dumbed down job that they think that they can utilize as a sedentary occupation. So you have to get around that limiting language of the policy and get around that change in definition of disability, because they're going to deny you that 2-year mark. So as you mentioned earlier, they have tricks of the trade. Like everyone's going to see the same tricks they always utilize, and they're going to say, "Oh, we never received those records from your doctor. We never received those records from you." So the key to any claim is you got to kill them with proof of your claim, and proof is in the form of medical documentation. But we send it multiple ways. When I send proof in support of my client's claim, we make sure to fax it in, and we make sure to send it certified mail. So when they say we never got that, I go, well, wait a second. I have a fax confirmation here that says 20 pages were faxed on such and such date at this time in the morning. So you guys did get it. So it's not my fault that your company's so big that your left arm doesn't know what the right arm is doing. It is over there at MetLife. I'll send it to you again. I have another copy ready to go. I can email it to you. And that's kind of key to a lot of claims, is trying to get the email addresses of the claims analyst. Now they'll hide that to the best of their abilities. Right. They'll have you send it into to the general disability appeals at metlife.com. So they never want you to have their direct contact information. They never want to speak with you. It's such a frustrating experience. I know what these people are going through when they call me, because it's frustrating dealing with MetLife. But the key to the claim is getting your medical records into them, sending it multiple ways, and having proof that they was submitted. So if you ever get denied, you say, here's my appeal. Here's where I sent you these records, and I'll send it to you again. And you want to make them embarrassed so that if it comes down to a lawsuit, you say, Judge, here's where they went wrong. And here's what we did to make sure that this claim should not have been denied. So there's 5 different things they did wrong in denying this case, and that's why we're going to win our lawsuit.
So it sounds like it's also their infrastructure of how they're set up is not really customer friendly in order to get everything to them. And even us as a law firm who deals with them all the time, we know how to get through the channels to get to them. So you have to be very diligent and follow up with them. And it's unfortunately the norm. We tend to have, when we're representing claimants, more of this business to business relationship. And I don't know if it's a respect thing or a fear thing, but it tends to be if we call them, they call back. If we send them a letter, they're going to respond in a timely manner. But with the claimants, they maybe don't have the fear, or they feel like, they're so overwhelmed, they don't want to reply.
Or maybe they feel like they can lie about it and say, I did call you back. But we have obviously phone records and voicemails that if they call us back, they leave a voicemail, it's going to be there. But I have the same frustration. I call them, and the claims analyst never answers. So whenever someone answers at MetLife, I always say, thank you very much. I have to congratulate you. It's 1 out of every 20 phone calls where one of you answers, and I have to really recommend you and commend you for answering. You should really get a raise. I really want to talk to your manager, let him know, and let him or her know that you're doing a great job. So thank you for answering the phone. I'm not even joking around. I say it all the time whenever they actually do answer.
Well, so we touched on the customer service is below average. Their response time is below average. Their policy language is
tough.
Is very hard. I mean, I think I also would give them a below average rating because in the group side, now I'm not talking about the individual side, I'm talking about the group side, it's a very hard definition, especially with the limitation periods that you spoke about, the change in definition. Although I do like, in particular, when they put an income component to any occupation, saying you have to earn 60% of what you used to earn, as opposed to just saying, go do a job that pays 10% or 20% of what you used to do. So that is a little bit of a plus. The biggest thing, though, or I should say one of the most common review complaints that I see are that they tend to use their own in-house people and not examine a claimant when making a denial. And are they allowed to do that?
Yes, and they rely upon it too much. But again, it leaves the door open for us. But they'll use their internal medical directors to do a review of the claims and utilize their medical director reviews as justification for denials of new claims or denials of ongoing claims. And it always frustrates me because the person who's an employee of Metlife, who's giving an opinion on, doing a file review, medical file review, they are inherently biased. I mean, the person paying their salary is Metlife.
Right.
So they have an inherent bias to side for them, and they know how to write an opinion and overlook certain information and highlight information in my client's medical records that may show that something's normal or the complaints are less or whatever it is. They know how to. They're just inherently biased, and it frustrates me when I see it. But when I see a denial letter and they list all the people that had touched the file, and I notice it's internal people only. I know that the door is still cracked open here because they put their head in the sand for a reason, and the reason is because they know this claim is likely a true claim they should be paying benefits on. So when I get the denial letter and I see they only did internal reviews only, it frustrates me. But they don't send the people out to a functional capacity evaluation. They don't send them out to independent medical examination. They don't even have independent doctors, who I sometimes have to question their independence, perform a review of the records. They've only used internal medical doctors and medical directors and nurses. And it frustrates me because they have an inherent bias to find and write an opinion in favor of their employer, the people that are paying their salary. So it's one of the first things I always criticize in appeals when I see it from Metlife. I'm like, could you have done anything less? Like, how cheap can you be? Because I don't know if it's because they want to deny the claim or they're trying to save money, because it costs money to send somebody to a functional capacity evaluation. It costs money to have an independent medical examination, or even have an independent doctor is going to cost them a few $1,000s to do a review of the records. But they should do that. It's the right thing to do when someone's claiming disability and this is their livelihood on the line. This is their income coming in. So they should spend money on the case if they really want to deny it correctly. But when they deny it incorrectly, I always smile because I know I can win. It gives me a better chance of winning the appeal.
Right, an opportunity for an insured. And just to wrap up, you remember the United States Supreme Court case of Metlife v. Glenn, which was the ultimate conflict case. I mean, these cases rarely go to the Supreme Court. They only hear 120 cases a year. And this case was already, it must have been 10 years ago already. And that case was about whether or not, that basically saying there is an inherent conflict because Metlife is the administrator, fiduciary, and the payor. And because of that, the claimant was arguing to say, I should get an independent review of this file where the court can make a decision without any deference to Metlife. And Metlife said, no, the policy doesn't provide for that. The law should be arbitrary and capricious, and you have to defer to the insurance company. And unfortunately, the court said, if you have that discretionary language in there that says that Metlife has the right to interpret the terms of the plan and make the decision, that's okay. And so Metlife basically won that case. And because of that, Metlife has this overwhelming confidence to say, yeah, the Supreme Court's basically accepted there are inherent conflicts in these cases, but we can still be neutral or fair. And they live with that confidence. And unfortunately, that's the world of ERISA and these group benefits. And that's why so many people get frustrated when dealing with MetLife and many other disability companies, you just have to know how to handle them, how to work the ERISA laws, and how to submit the evidence, like you were saying, in order to get your claim approved, and forget about all the nonsense with the inherent conflicts and their policies and all that other stuff, and say, here's the policy language, here's the evidence, overwhelm them with that, and that's how you're going to win your case.
And the thing is, if you are truly disabled and you've been denied and they're relying upon their internal medical director reviews, there has to be holes in those reviews if you really are disabled. So the key is to find those holes, and then you have to plug those holes with your medical records and your proof and your arguments to show that you are disabled. But definitely frustrating dealing with them at times, for sure.
Well, this is just scratching the surface, Alex, on different opinions on MetLife and things that we see and things that we understand are frustrating, and we really appreciate people continuing to post their reviews and encourage more of those. And if you're someone out there who has specific questions for Alex or myself, feel free to call us. We always offer a free consultation, and we can help you no matter where you live in the country. Thank you.